Editor Matthew Warren. Welcome back, Matthew. We've been talking, of course, about this extraordinary government shutdown in the United States. You've been looking at its economic impact.
Yes, that's right. Of course, this, as you've been reporting, this ping-ponging of legislation between the Senate and the House of Representatives and ultimately failure to get an agreement means that these what are considered non-essential government services are now starting to be shut down. And the impact on the economy is really all about a matter of time. If it's very short run, probably not a huge impact, but others are estimating that anything 3 weeks or longer could see 1.5% knocked off the projected growth figure for these 3 months these last 3 months of the year. Well, Oliver Farry has been taking a look in this report.
Hopes of averting a federal shutdown in the US faded Monday night, with some 800,000 public sector employees facing unpaid leave. House Republicans have blocked the passing of the 2014 budget. President Barack Obama says the economy will suffer immediately.
Past shutdowns have disrupted the economy significantly. This one would too. It would throw a wrench into the gears of our economy at a time when those gears have gained some traction.
Analysts estimate the shutdown would cost the US economy $300 million per day. Much of that is through suppressing consumption as federal workers watch their pennies. Sectors such as tourism will also be hit, as national parks and monuments will be forced to close. Wall Street, which closed down on Monday, is also getting jittery.
When we have this dysfunction, when we have this back and forth between the Senate and the House and the White House, you certainly have markets that don't like the uncertainty and tend to sell off. So what we've seen over the last couple of days, or certainly 6 of the last 7 trading days, is pressure, a market that's come under pressure because of the uncertainty surrounding these issues.
A 28-day shutdown in 1995 and 96 cost the taxpayer $1.5 billion. The current impasse could well last up to 3 weeks. An even bigger crisis looms with congressional battles over raising the debt ceiling, which needs to be done by October 17th.
Now, of course, as a result of this, Matthew, markets have been falling.
That's right. So in the US on Monday, we saw markets falling ahead of this. They were clearly anticipating this would happen. That's how the trading session closed on Monday. Meanwhile, in Asia, well, you might be a bit surprised to see that, in fact, there's green on what's going on in Asia. I can explain that in Japan, a sort of improvement in the economic outlook helping sentiment there. Also, some other news out of Japan. The GG news agency reporting the sales tax there is going to increase to 8%. Now, this has been long anticipated. Now, it's an attempt to help fund the country's very indebted social security system. But the Prime Minister, Shinzo Abe, expected to talk about how a lot of the proceeds from that will go towards stimulus to help the economy, the economic recovery there.
Next, Matthew, you're going to tell us about something we've been hoping to hear about all day, which is the embarrassing mistake made here in France about unemployment numbers.
That's right, a curious one this. Last week, the government announced that in August there were 50,000 fewer job seekers. Now, that was very important because it was the first time in more than 2 years that we'd seen that number go down. Well, it turns out that, in fact, they may have overestimated slightly. And the reason for this is because one of the mobile phone operators here in France, SFR, sends out these regular updates to remind people to update their details on the government's state-run employment bureau service. Well, it seems that they didn't do that. That means that perhaps up to around 29,000 claimants didn't update their details. The government's saying that rather than that 50,000 drop, could be more like a 25,000 drop that we'll see in August. We'll get confirmation, of course, when they've worked that out.
Very briefly, Matthew, you're hoping that people will get in touch with you if they're affected by that shutdown in the United
That's right.
States.
It's very late in the US, of course, but if you're affected by this shutdown, do let me know on Twitter. You can reach me at MatthewFrance24. It'd be very interesting to hear what preparations you're making, what you've been told already. Do let me know.
Thank you very much indeed, Matthew Warren. Look there at the latest business headlines, 23 minutes past 8 here in Paris. You're watching Paris Live, broadcasting live to you from the French capital. We're going to have a look now at the very latest headlines on the internet. And as ever, the internet being used as a tool in protests, this time in Sudan, where the regime of Omar al-Bashir is facing its most significant protest movement since he took power back in 1989. It began with a series of rallies in protest against fuel hikes, and that's where we begin today.
The president of Sudan, Omar al-Bashir, promised to raise the minimum wage on Sunday. in a bid to placate demonstrators who have been protesting for the past week, slamming the dramatic rise in fuel prices prompted by the government's decision to lift gasoline subsidies. As we can see in these photos posted online by pro-democracy activist group Girifna, the rallies were violently repressed by police. The authorities, who are said to be responsible for the deaths of dozens of protesters since the start of the movement, claim the pictures have been staged. The government maintains tight control over local media, but according to analysis from the team at Renesis, there was also a 24-hour internet blackout on Wednesday. The outage in Sudan could well have been orchestrated by the authorities to stop demonstrators from coordinating protests or sharing reports from the scene on social networks. So, facing total censorship, computer specialists have set up this interactive map using the Ushahidi software. Citizens can submit reports of rallies, protests that have turned violent, arrests and other events via SMS, and they will then be pegged to the crowd mapping platform. The protest movement began after the country's separation from South Sudan in 2011 left the nation facing a financial crisis, which has now taken a political turn. Protesters have taken to the streets and to the web, calling for the ouster of Omar al-Bashir and a change in government. At the International Donors Conference Together for a New Mali held in Brussels back in May, France pledged to donate €280 million over 2 years to help fund development projects in Mali. The French government wants to be transparent about how the funds will be used, and so has set up a website to document just that. The platform's hosted on the website of the French Embassy in Bamako and catalogues all the projects on an interactive map. Infrastructure works in the water or electricity sectors, humanitarian aid for displaced people, and also the funding of educational projects. Any programme that costs over €100,000 is detailed on this summary table, which is regularly updated so that web users can follow the project's development. The public can also get involved by reporting any anomalies. If visitors to the site notice an irregularity in one of the projects, there's a contact form or telephone number available so they can report their concern via email or SMS. And as the Deputy Minister for Development, Pascal Canfin, explained in an interview for French daily 20 Minutes, the aim is to maximise the efficiency of French aid and protect against the misuse of public funds. If the project proves effective, then it could be rolled out to cover other countries receiving aid from France. The final episode of the series Breaking Bad was aired on Sunday in the US, setting the web abuzz. Numerous companies have tried to cash in on the phenomenal success of the show that follows a chemistry teacher turned drug dealer by posting Breaking Bad related and inspired ads on Twitter. And it's not just the brand names trying to capitalise on the popularity of the series. The two main US political parties have also got in on the act, as we can see from the Republican and Democrat Twitter accounts. Take a look around the world's largest particle physics laboratory, the European Organisation for Nuclear Research, CERN, in Geneva, Switzerland, from the comfort of your own home. It's now possible thanks to Google Street View. Web users can explore the labs, the control centres and the huge advanced particle accelerators over 100 metres below ground. A fascinating project that will no doubt prove hugely popular with budding scientists everywhere. Here's a video for thrill seekers and adrenaline junkies. It's a new extreme sport and it's called jet surf. As we can see in these spectacular images, the motorised surfboard takes jet surfers through the water at an astonishing pace as they pull off some pretty impressive moves along the way.
That was Web News. In a couple of minutes, the latest headlines.
Anticipate. Take a stand. Be mobile. Defend your position. Be independent. Meet every challenge. Surprise people. Be a leader. Be equipped to understand the world. France 24.